range from champion footballers, past and present, to men and women of all ages from all walks of life. The common thread is their love of football, the bric-a-brac, the mementos, the trivia and the rarities. You will find them scouring junk shops, at sporting fairs, and in the rooms of Australia's most prestigious auction houses. In this show, we meet that burgeoning breed who are prepared to spend their hard-earned cash on a piece of memorabilia from years past. It might be a medallion, a footy jumper that has seen better days, or a scrap of paper with the name of a great champion inscribed forever. It may be displayed elegantly in pride of place, or quietly tucked away and put on display on special occasions. They're a rare group with a deep knowledge of football and its personalities. They are the collectors.
For some, it's just a matter of storing the treasures of a wondrous football career. For men like Alex Jesaulenko, a career that spanned 3 decades as a player and coach. For others like Ron Rifle, it's the task of assembling the relics of a football club's rich history. And then for a bloke like Joe Boyer, the challenge of adding to an already burgeoning collection. Player, curator or footy fan, they have one thing in common: they're all collectors. Ron Rifle played a handful of games under Jack Dyer at Richmond in the early 50s, but half a century on, the father of long-time Australian Test fast bowler Paul is still at Tigerland, building one of the finest football museums in the land.
Well, I understand you're the first official curator of Richmond Football Club Museum.
Yeah, well, I sort of stumbled on that job because when they opened the museum, I was being retired, was able to come down and file away photos and put up photos, etc. And someone said one day, "Well, you're the curator," so I've sort of I've been stuck with that ever since.
Position of great privilege.
Oh, yeah.
I'm absolutely astonished by the by the wealth of memorabilia you have in here. Everything: photographs, albums, trophies, medallions, caps. How does it feel, someone like you who comes in the mornings, like coming into a cathedral? Richmond Cathedral.
Yeah, it is. It's being a Richmond person for all those years, to see everything that just unfolds before your eyes as you walk in the door. It's really still gives you a kick each time, you know.
It's quite amazing. It has that sort of cathedral-like atmosphere. It's intimate. There's a lot of material here in a smallish space, but yet it looks bright and breezy and airy and marvellously arranged. Now, what is your favourite item, if there is such a thing, among this wealth of treasures here, Ron?
Well, things that most football supporters that are keen on collecting, members' cards always hold a pride of place, and they so do with myself. You'll notice here that this is one I really think is fantastic. We were given this book by a family of one of the players who played in our first game in 1885. In 1932, they gave us this book, and it contains membership tickets in following the club's history, and it starts in 1885.
From the first game?
From the first game that Richmond were formed, the first year they were formed.
Right, and there's the name of the member in there?
Yes, it's James Stewart, J. Stewart, and John Stewart. John J. Stewart. He was he played in the actual first game, and then he played for many years, and then he served on the committee.
Right.
And of course, then his family collected this and gave it through to us.
They presented it to the club.
To the club, and we've kept it going, and we've now got every card that's been put through over all those years. And they're very nice, different designs on the early parts, especially, you know.
It sort of reflects the history of the club as well, the way tastes have changed over the years.
That's right, and each one of them has got the fixture inside, like the little fixture. And a very big plus for us was the fact that every committee was all listed. Every member of the committee was listed. So it's been able to help Trevor Ruddle and Rhett Bartlett, our early historians, to look back and find out who served here. So
yes, and I think a lot of members of Richmond Football Club would have access or be able to collect the odd early members' pass here and there, but be very unlikely to find a complete set. And even more unlikely to find it in an album of that period, 1885, because the date is on the cover,
Yeah.
It's stamped in gilt, and the little pockets are the original Morocco leather. Something like this, I would have thought, a collection of the members' passes on their own without such a beautiful presentation album I would think be about $2,000, maybe a little bit more. In an album like this, I would say up to 5,000, maybe a bit more than that.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And now there's one of your earliest trophies over there, the challenge, the Junior Challenge
the
Cup.
Junior Challenge Cup. This little trophy was won by a Richmond team in 1872. It's actually not the club we know today, Richmond, which was formed in 1885, but there were Richmond teams playing in the park here
Yes. And I think the other three teams that played for that cup were Collingwood and Southern, and there's one other, wasn't there?
I think I'm not sure who the other one was.
But it must be one of the earliest football trophies around.
I would say I have seen other Challenge Cups. I think Carlton had one and was in one of the publications, but it was later than that. That's the earliest one that I've
With
seen.
beautiful decoration, a sort of Greek key pattern border.
It's got the goal kickers and what have you on it.
Marvellous calligraphic engraving. Something like this, because it's so unique, it's the only one of its kind, and so early, I would estimate it at about $50,000, $60,000, perhaps a little bit more.
It's pretty rare, that one.
Yes, very rare. You've got a marvellous premiership cap from 1902.
Well, that's Richmond, the Richmond club, as we know it today, was their first premiership.
Right,
In 1902, we were in the VFA, of course, in those days, and we joined in 1885, our club was formed, and we started playing, and it was 1902 when we won our first premiership.
Right.
We won another one in 1905, and then in 1908 we went into the league.
And do we know whose cap this was, or who it was presented to?
There's nothing
No
on it
name
to
inside?
say, no, and it's been in the club long before this museum was formed. It was in the
Yes,
cabinet over in
yes,
the boardroom for
Oh,
many
yes,
years. But it's had quite a few famous photos taken with famous players putting it on for promotional photos.
Again, I would say, because it's such a unique item and really in quite good condition. Something like about 20,000, 25,000.
Right.
Or something like that. And to go with that, you've got a premiership medallion, I think.
Yeah, that's the earliest premiership medallion, because this was a VFL premiership medallion in the 1920s. It was won by Arthur Bettles in 1920, and that's they've changed them, of course.
Changed the design. That's a marvellous one. I quite like that. The running footballer running with the ball, 9-carat gold, something like that. I would say would be about between $5,000 to $10,000.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, that was our first ever premiership in the VFL.
Right. And then it can't be complete without an actual football.
Well, the football, this football belonged to the Strang family.
Right.
And Doug Strang kicked 14 goals with this football. It was presented to him after the game by Sherrans, and it was actually the game that Strang kicked 14 goals, which is a record for this club. No one's kicked 14 goals, and it was in 1931. And in 1931, this game we kicked over 30 goals, and that was a league record that stood till 1969, from 1931 till 1969, when Carlton took the record off us.
And really good condition, isn't it?
It is. It was the Strang family brought that down to us a couple of years ago.
With a beautiful engraved silver plaque. Something like that, again, I would say about 30,000. Now, Ron, we've seen a lot of the treasures in the museum, but to me, what evokes the passion, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the triumphs, the disaster, the despair are these marvellous lockers, because this is where the players get kitted up and come back in triumph when they've won the premiership, or in despair if they've lost it. And it's a marvellous example of basically what happens behind the scenes of a club, so close really to the heart of the average supporter. And this is the sort of thing that they might be able to find if they're out looking for something like this. Can you tell us something about the history of these lockers?
Yeah, when I first started coming around in the 40s, probably they only had a peg on the wall with the players hung their coats and.
Right.
But these were here right through the 60s and the 50s. It's only in the last or say 5 years or so, that they've 5 or 6 years they've put in new lockers over in the old pavilion, and they were all put into storage. We were able to accumulate 3, which a little bit hard because they're bolted together. So if you get one, you've got to get 3.
You've got to get 3, the complete section. So
Yeah.
marvellous names on there.
Oh, they're all our
Minnow,
great players.
Bentley,
Yeah, every one of those
Lee.
was some sort of a superstar, and Brownlow medalists. And we picked 1, 2 and 3. Number 17, Jack Dyer's number would have been good, but we picked 1, 2 and 3 because there were so many ex-champions, like Brownlow medalists,
Yes.
Roy Wright and
Yes.
Ian Stewart, Brownlow medalists, you know. So Dale Waitman, Roger Dean, champions of the club.
So what actually happened to number 17? Do we know?
17 is probably still in storage.
And is this the original paintwork? It hasn't been repainted?
I think they've been painted various times. You can see by the running on the
But
on
it
the
still
side.
has a bit of age, a bit of wear on the handles.
Yeah. Oh yes, it's there.
And something like this, if one of your supporters is lucky enough to pick up a set of 3, I would say the individual ones would be about 10,000, 10, 15. Over here you've got about 30, 40, 50,000 worth of lockers.
Well, I suppose when you see them with the names on, the supporters would love them.
Good. Well, I think this is the appropriate space to end on, really. This is where it ends, as I say, and begins.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.